They say that some places are meant to be forgotten, swallowed by the shadows of a city that never sleeps. But behind this heavy, rusted door, a secret has been waiting.
The Library of Memories was a cathedral of silence. Here, sunbeams danced through layers of neglect, illuminating millions of floating dust motes that look like fallen stars. Thousands of books, once loved, now lay abandoned on cold floors. It was a graveyard of stories, until a single splash of color stepped into the gray. Sophie was a girl who carried the sun in her spirit and the storm in her steps. In her bright red raincoat and yellow boots, she looked like a flame in the dark. She didn't see a ruin. She saw a treasure chest. She didn't know that her curiosity was the key that would finally turn the lock of this forgotten world. Hidden beneath the grand decaying staircase was Max. For years, he had built a fortress of books to hide from a world that felt too loud and too bright. To Max, the library wasn't empty. It was safe. He lived in the whispers of the pages, a lonely guardian of a kingdom that no one else wanted. When their paths crossed, it was like two different worlds touching. Sophie brought the energy of the wind, and Max held the stillness of the earth. At first, there was only fear and a flickering flashlight between them. But in Sophie's eyes, Max didn't see a stranger. He saw someone who looked at books with the same hunger he did. It happened when they opened an ancient volume together. As their fingers brushed the yellowed parchment, the ink began to pulse. Golden light bled from the pages, and the shadows of dragons took flight above their heads. They realized then that a story is just words on a page when read alone, but it becomes a universe when shared. Day after day, the library transformed. When Sophie read of emerald jungles and ancient beasts, translucent vines began to crawl up the bookshelves. The air smelled of rain and wild orchids. Max, who used to be afraid of his own shadow, began to laugh, reaching out to touch the shimmering butterflies born from their shared imagination. They sailed on rafts made of encyclopedias across oceans of starlight. In the silence of the library, they found a language only they understood. Sophie taught Max how to be brave in the face of monsters, and Max showed Sophie how to hear the music in the quietest moments. They weren't just friends, they were the architects of a new world. In the golden hour of the afternoon, the library felt like the only home they had ever known. Tired from their adventures, they would sit in the warmth, resting against each other. It was in these quiet moments, without the magic or the dragons, that they realized the greatest discovery wasn't in the books. It was the person sitting beside them. But the world outside had no room for magic. A cold gray sign was nailed to the door, a death sentence for their sanctuary. Mr. Grimsby, a man who saw only old paper and wasted space, stood where their dreams lived. To him, the library was an eyesore. To Sophie and Max, it was the place where they finally belonged. Sophie's heart burned with a fierce fire, while Max felt a cold wave of sadness. But as he looked at her, he realized he didn't want to hide anymore. He took her hand, not because he was afraid, but because he was ready to fight. They wouldn't let their world fade into silence without a roar. They worked until their hands were sore and their clothes were covered in the dust of decades. Sophie swept away the neglect with every ounce of her strength, while Max polished the brass and glass until the library began to breathe again. They were preparing a stage, not just for books, but for the heart of the town. The doors opened, and for the first time in years, the library was filled with the sound of footsteps. Under the soft glow of the lamps, the magic returned. Sophie's voice wove spells of wonder, while Max used the light to paint memories on the ceiling. The townspeople watched in awe as their own forgotten dreams came back to life. Even a heart of stone can be moved by the ghost of a happy memory. As Mr. Grimsby watched a projection of a small, lonely boy reading by a window, he saw himself. He remembered the boy he used to be before he traded stories for ledgers. A single tear escaped, washing away the grayness of his adult world. The red sign was torn down, and the sun shone brighter on the library than it ever had before. The building was saved, but it was more than just a victory for the books. It was a victory for the community that had forgotten how to dream. Sophie and Max stood at the entrance, no longer outcasts, but heroes of their own story. Years passed, and the Library of Memories became the heartbeat of the city. Sophie and Max grew, but they never truly left. They remained there, guiding the next generation of dreamers. Their friendship was the foundation upon which every new story was built, a bond that grew stronger with every chapter they turned together. Friendship is not merely a sanctuary. It is a force that can reshape the entire world. It reminds us that when two souls gaze toward the same horizon, they can turn dust into gold and transform oblivion into eternity. Sophie and Max have shown us that as long as we stand side by side, no story ever truly has to end. For the greatest magic of all, the kind that heals hearts and builds legacies, is the magic we find in one another.